Hello, everyone. It's been a while. Welcome back if you're tuning in. This is the Real Matrix Files YouTube channel. I honestly don't remember where we left off, and I didn't check. I've been a little busy dealing with some things online and offline. As you know, I've released 3 books, 2 of which pertain to the Real Matrix Files channel and all the research that you may already be familiar with. I had to get around to moving house and tidying up some loose ends and whatnot, and had to do the rounds, unfortunately, via Twitter, of all places, which I know full well exactly what the deal is with Twitter. We've exposed it in the files, in the research files, and I'll get to the long story in a moment, but short story is it's still exactly the same. It's just a little bit worse. The same controls are in place. Many of you would probably already be aware that there's been heavy debate over censorship, free speech. Elon Musk, oh my goodness, abortion rights and the Ukraine so-called war. And so I sort of got my head inside that in amongst promoting the Simulation book, which you can get via Amazon. Yes, I'm plugging it. Simulation, the transcript, very important read. The super light version, which is sort of like a fictionalized version of the research, is Lights, which you can also get from Amazon. P. Dreesen is the author that you need to look for. So I was in the midst, kind of getting all that together, just, putting a couple of posts up a day just to promote the books so that maybe I could get them to a wider audience. A bit hard to do that via YouTube. So anyway, I went in knowing full well what the repercussions could be of joining Twitter after having steered away from all of these networks for so long. And, it wasn't long until there were political happenings online, which, as usual, tend to take over everything. And I just want to start there on that point that the first thing that I think we need to understand is that even though it's all bad, even though all social media and all of this is completely toxic and completely bad for the planet and the world and human beings and children and everything, it's all bad, that when the networks first started, I'll just talk about Twitter specifically for a minute. When Twitter first started, it's a civilian network. It's a civilian space. And it was actually quite lighthearted and people seemed to get along okay, and there wasn't really a lot of fighting. It was sort of only when trolls turned up and started harassing people that things started to get ugly. They've always had an issue with just allowing bots and fake accounts. You'd think by now that a country that lauds itself as the world's greatest superpower, that's apparently better than everybody else, would know how to run a simple social media network, but apparently not. So the fake accounts and the fraud and the bots and political stuff and wars and everything, and then you get just mass intensity of online data flowing through the airwaves as well, that is really just a battlefield. It's war, and proves automatically that that's what all of this is really about. Its true essence is revealed. The system's true essence is revealed, and that is it's a battleground between the Western countries and anybody else who dares to question the established order, which, as we all know, has failed to establish peace on earth. It has failed to establish health on earth. It has failed to establish security on earth. And they keep sort of barreling forward in the same mundane direction, trying to fuck for virginity. And blame somebody else. We all know this. It's unfortunate. The upside is that there are countries who have felt mightily bullied and oppressed by the United States of America that are now starting to feel a little more confident that they can speak out and feel good to be sovereign states and run their countries the way they want to, whether it's a religious state or a republic or a monarchy or whatever the case may be. Some good things have happened from the recent whirlwind of programmed and simulated reality online. But the truth of it is that as they stand as civilian networks, is that we the people have a right to assemble peacefully without aggressive government intrusion. Now, what that means is that utterly no government office is allowed or should be on social media. They have invaded civil space and continue to harm and assault the general public with aggressive, malicious, accusatory, conflicting, hostile posts. And they get away with it because they're government officers. But the reality of it is that they're actually harming people. They're endangering people. They're causing conflict. They're causing hostility. And this is the nature of what they do. Reality is they need to be kicked out. What I'm hoping is that Elon, if whatever power he does end up having about how Twitter is run, since it's seemingly not going anywhere, is that they wake up to the fact that they are civilian networks, that they do have a right to operate in a sovereign capacity, that they do have a right to operate as civilian networks, and that government intrusion is not legally required or welcome. That's what I'm hoping. But I just want to make you aware that if you're following any of that sort of stuff on social media, the governments shouldn't be there. It's that simple. They shouldn't be indulged either. So what's sort of been happening at my end is that I raised a few points as we got hijacked by the Ukraine war, or on the other side of the coin, the Russian military operation in Ukraine. And I raised a few points, one being that only 37% of Ukrainians are vaccinated from COVID. And when the war started, all the case numbers dropped to zero. And millions of Ukrainians were evacuating from Ukraine, regardless of whether they were vaccinated or not, and they were not put into quarantine either. So that's the first point that I raised, which everybody, from what I could tell, hadn't even thought of, because what had actually happened is that the next current thing was happening and they suddenly dropped COVID and didn't apply the same thinking to the new situation. And it may have generated, I mean, I don't think that my comments particularly go far and wide. They're not shared widely, so I don't know why they would have much of an impact on anybody. But that's the first point that I made in amidst all of this. One of the other points that I made was what I mentioned before, that governments shouldn't be on social media. And I also objected somewhat to Elon being put in too powerful a position over the network, because despite some of the good things that he would like to do, there are diabolical perils in allowing someone of his public standing and position in the world to assume that he is automatically in the know on how the network even runs. that he is just as open to manipulation and suggestion as anybody else, and that his influence is rather wide. He can be bought and sold just like anybody else, which at the end of the day won't bode well for us. I think it's just my personal opinion, but I think if you're a billionaire and you're an adult and you're posting memes and dick jokes, it's probably a good indication of the level of mentality that's being applied, or the level of maturity that's being applied to running a network that impacts millions of people and makes the difference between war or peace in this world. As you know, he's given Starlink to Ukraine to help them fight Russia, and I think right there, network owners shouldn't be getting involved in wars and politics, political moves in that way, because if they claim to still be running a public service as a private company, their first responsibility should be to make sure that they are neutral and that they do everything in their power to protect civilians, not exploiters. So that was the other point that I made. In amongst all of this, I made a few comments about some things that are going on in my own life and some behaviours that have been exhibited towards me. Yet again, I've spoken about it all through the files. Erratic, irrational, sudden, inexplicable behaviours that leave you completely confused, stunned, and wondering what the hell is going on. And I spoke a little bit about this too on Twitter. And I said the things that I needed to say about a particular situation. So all of this sort of, my content there was, I suppose, generating its own energy field, if you like, in the airwaves, which is exactly what it does. That's a science. That's not metaphysical quackery. It's an actual science, which a lot of people like to deny. And around the 21st of April, which would have been the 22nd of April down under time, a new account was opened on Twitter, which I didn't find until about a week or 10 days later. But it was an account that had been, and just before I get into that, I'm going to be talking to you about targeting, which we've looked at in the research files, and how social media targets dissent. So this account was created, and it was using my author name and a profile picture of me, which I don't immediately recognise or remember where or when this photograph was taken, other than it might have been possibly from around 6 whole years ago. And it's a private photo, and I don't believe that I ever uploaded it to any network. And this account that I eventually found 7 to 10 days later was filled with comments directed at me and about me, only to do with my private situation. Some comments that I had made online out of complete and utter frustration with the stupidity and the callousness and the cruelty of some people, the disrespect of some people, and the entitlement that they feel to persist in bringing their problems to my door, just after having not taken any of the advice to deal with those problems. It was a simple thing. It's like, well, we've been talking about this for over a year now, and you're still going around in the same circles. You're not making things anything better for yourself. Why is it still my problem? Why am I still being impacted by it? And so anyway, this account was created, and it was full of what seemed to me to it seemed to be different people. Either that or the person that had created it was in a schizophrenic frame of mind and not maintaining a consistent mindset from one post to the next. It also had something to do with the fact that I had added certain people that I wanted to say something to, which some find completely offensive. They can't imagine why they'd be approached online. They're so used to gossiping privately about people. They feel morally offended when somebody actually confronts them. So this account was obviously very disturbing. It was identity theft. It wasn't linked to my account in any way. It was just existing sort of off in the background somewhere, generating a targeted psychological attack on me. Now, how I came to find it, and this is I think the thing that sort of annoys them the most and why I do get targeted so often, is because I sensed it. I simply sensed it. I remember getting up from my laptop at one point, going out to the kitchen, grabbing a cup of tea and coming back, and I could feel it. I felt a little more fuzzy in my head. I felt like something was being done to me. I felt that there was an intrusion of some kind going on. I felt that I was being abused. And these were all impressions that I received just from, I wasn't really thinking about it. It just sort of came over me. I don't know where you guys sit when it comes to psychic ability and stuff like that. For me, at the end of the day, it's really just a matter of sensitivity and how some of us might be more sensitive than others and able to tune in or pick up on things that somebody else may not. I'm one of those people. I have a keen intuitive sense, but I'm usually seeing in the dark, if you know what I mean. I get a sense of things, but I don't always get the whole picture. I don't always get the full information. I'm not a total magician when it comes to being psychic or anything like that. So I got a sense that this account existed. No, actually, I didn't get a sense that the account existed. I got a sense that I was being watched. And as has been the case many times in the past, whenever there's been a problem offline in everyday life, what has tended to happen is that if I come online and say anything about it, I'm stalked, I'm spied on, and I'm denied my right to free speech. I'm also led to the internet by people who don't want to deal with things in an adult way, and they don't want to deal with things face-to-face, and they don't want to have the adult conversation. They shut me out, and so then I'm sort of led to come online where they can sit comfortably in their safe space and attack me from there, which is very sad, but also very typical of a mindset that is used to dealing with problems in a phone or from behind a screen. There's an entire generation out there that no longer know how to navigate real-world problems. And so they create a drama and they create a situation where you keep a lid on your frustrations for 2 months and then you let some of it spill out, and they're right there and they're waiting, they're ready, they've been watching and they're just waiting for you to say something so that they can become morally superior or pretend to be morally superior and call you out on the horrible things that you've said, to, of course, hide the horrible things that they've done. It's an extreme form of gaslighting, and I'm going to show you the messages that were sent. So I'll start showing them now. And just to let you know, I'm recording the audio for this video separately to making the video. So I'm going to try and align the tweets as best with my audio as I can. But just bear with me on that. Might be a bit all over the place. So you can see from the content that's here, it's not pleasant to read. Some of you might think it's not really that bad, but what I'm going to ask you to do is look at it from the perspective of being targeted, and to keep in mind that this fake account was not created with any link to mine. It was simply created as a background account, presumably by people who are not mentally well, and by people who had a deliberate intention to target me. And that being said, it was never my intention to target anyone. If I say anything online about anything, I'm just letting off steam because I get fed up with bullshit, and that's every person's right to say whatever they like. If people don't want unkind things being said about them, they should learn to be a bit more respectful and nicer, and then not throw tantrums and turn it around on somebody else who didn't do anything wrong, you know what I'm saying? So there are the tweets, and as soon as I found them, obviously I screenshotted them and I put them up on my account. And they had me back and forth for, a good 10 days or whatever, because I thought that I may have known who was behind the account. So I took the opportunity to address what, interestingly, was sort of like a microcosmic life experience with certain people that is a little bit like the situation between Russia, Ukraine, and the USA, where you have one country that just wants to make sure that their security is not threatened. You have another country that thinks they're sort of a bit bratty and they make lots of demands and they want lots of things and they think they can do whatever they want and be militant and sort of Nazi-esque about how they go about their government. And then you have the big bully over there, the big USA guy, who has no interest in ever allowing Russia the right to operate equally and independently of the United States. There's a mindset that emanates out of America that sort of suggests that everyone has to submit to what America wants. And I'm familiar with this mindset in the people that I have had to deal with over the years. I'm familiar with that mindset whenever I've spoken out. I'm quickly silenced, falsely accused, gaslit, threatened, and then they try and make me kill myself. So it's kind of remarkable that they would keep repeating the same methods which don't work, and further evidence of the insanity of the mindset behind the targeting, because they keep repeating the same thing, but it doesn't work, but they keep repeating it. So they don't ever try and do anything new or different or logical or ethical, like have the conversation or simply talk about it. So it's very interesting. And I think you'll find that what I did is that as I've been investigating this account, from the perspective of data that's in the system at the same time, that the creation of this account has come about by somebody who's programmed by the content in social media. It goes back to the NodeXLGraphGallery.org website. It also has to do with government programming and the connections that people make with the governments on social media. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, all of this sort of stuff. So when you have lots of people connected to a person, there's data transfers that occur, and somebody can become completely mind controlled into doing and saying utterly unthinkable things in the most cowardly way possible to either organise a conspired, targeted attack on an individual, or simply feel that they have the right to freedom of speech too, and that should somehow include them using my name and my profile picture to hide behind, which is where it all falls apart for them, because obviously that's below the belt. It's a form of psychological warfare, and not surprising. These are the depths that some people sink to. But yes, I wanted to share this with you guys because it's just more proof. It's more proof that if you happen to voice an opinion that goes against the oppressor, the political oppressor, you will be targeted. If you come online to air any personal views of your own that offend anybody else in your life, they won't deal with it in an adult way. They've already passed up on that opportunity, and then they will seek to target you online. It's highly disturbing because it's not the way the world used to be. People never used to do this. I have been stalked relentlessly by a group of people before. I have been falsely accused. I have been psychologically damaged. I have suffered brain injury. I have been gossiped about. I have been lied about. I have been falsely accused. Every attempt to silence me, my work, my talent, or standing up for my rights has been attacked, and serious attempts to stifle and gaslight me, assassinate my character, have occurred. Over 20 years is how long I've been putting up with it for. So, of course, if I put a couple of books out that call all of this out, and if people in my life don't want to handle their problems in an adult way and continue making them my problem, well, obviously the shit's going to hit the fan. It's all going to collide, and if I happen to side with Russia at any point, I'm going to be targeted on social media. And I just wanted to show you guys that my experience. There it is. As for the content of the actual tweets, they don't even know what they're talking about. Most of it's irrelevant, has nothing to do with the reality of the situation, and it's a clear attempt at gaslighting. It's intended to stun the individual, the targeted individual, and confuse the targeted individual and distract me from the track that I was on, because for whatever reason, somebody doesn't appreciate it. Oh, they feel a little bit put out, and this is how they deal with it from the safe space. And we can thank the United States Department of Defense at the end of the day for these abominations. We can thank Twitter for allowing anybody to upload a picture of a person that's not them. We can thank Twitter for allowing bots. It's really the worst run network. It's just straight psychological warfare. It's not fun anymore. It's obvious that the targeting is occurring. It's kind of a shit pit. And I've been saying it for years. Very few people listen to me in offline that I know. I even tried telling them about the phones. They still won't have it. And yet the proof just keeps rolling in. It keeps rolling in, how GPS systems and internal programming that they attach to their body through a phone all the time and through Wi-Fi in their homes completely abducts their thinking, their ability to reason, their ability to handle things in an adult way. all the mental processes, the neuronal processes and the chemicals in the brain that have been rewarded for negative behavior, rewarded for disrespect, dopamine guzzling likes and feeling popular and all the rest of it for doing terrible things to people. And they're taught that this is an acceptable way of handling problems. Phones, social media, all bad, all bad. There's more proof. Just wanted to share that with you guys. I hope you've been good. I will be back at some point again with more. If you want to follow me on Twitter, at the moment, I'm at Sim Transcripts. So at Sim Transcripts. The DP, my username may change depending on whether I get targeted again or not, and I may have to do that. But it's at Sim Transcripts, and you can follow me there if you want to. I'm really just sort of promoting my work and trying to deal with what's going on with governments on social media and the aggressive posts that they make, and the conflict and confusion that they cause online, and the sense of entitlement that they have for any of them to create civilian networks and then hijack them so that they can lord over us there as well. We are entitled to peacefully assemble. The public is entitled to come together anywhere to talk about the government without government intrusion. We have the right to redress the government at any point. We have the right to hold meetings against the government at any point because we live in a democracy. As long as this is a democracy, we have the right to do that. And if these networks don't understand that governments aren't welcome, they're hurting everybody. They've sold out, and they're not civilian networks anymore. Then the internet is not for the people. Social media is not for the people. It's there so that all the governments could come in with their blue ticks and their multiple accounts and just take over like dictators. And big tech dictatorship's obviously very apparent. So I don't really know what the problem is between why America would think that Russia is not a desirable form of government when America is the biggest dictator in the world. So their big tech industry proves it daily. I also don't think media outlets should be allowed on social media either, on all the news outlets. I don't think they should be there. We're individuals. We can find our own news. We can see what's happening in the world. We can look things up online and find articles and subscribe to things by email. And what used to happen was we just used to share them. We used to share news links, but now all the news outlets are there as well. Journalism, the free press thing, whatever. Mainstream media has done more harm than good. News media has done more harm than good. I think we've got a very long way to go before proper reporting, neutral reporting, becomes the order of the day. The sensationalist reporting coming out of America is toxic for everybody. So as long as we're talking about press freedom, well, they shouldn't have the freedom to destroy people's lives or violate the law or harass people or target individuals or falsely report and hurt people. Anyway, just wanted to show you that. Hope you've been good. I'll be back again another time. And again, if you want to follow me on Twitter at the moment, I'm at Sim Transcripts. I will catch you later, and thanks for tuning in.